Our next guest is a spokesperson for the Pink Pistols, Gwen Patton. How's it going?
It's going absolutely wonderfully.
Awesome.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to see you with the hat on.
Present from my life partner.
Hey, love it, love it, love it. So talk to me. Tell me and us about Pink Pistols.
Best way I can do that is give you a little bit of history. Back around 2000, Jonathan Rauch, openly gay, wrote articles for Salon.com, and he wrote this wonderful article entitled "Pink Pistols." It was about a friend of his who had been in a situation where a bunch of people tried to bash him and his partner. They're walking along the street, and he pulls out his own legally owned gun for which he had a carry permit and defended himself and his partner from being attacked by these people that didn't like the fact that they were holding hands walking down the street.
Yeah.
He wrote this article essentially saying that homosexuals should start what he called Pink Pistols task forces and arm themselves and get training so that they can defend themselves from harm. Well, a friend of mine, Doug Crick, who lived up in Boston, he and a few friends got together and they started a group. And they asked Jonathan, hey, can we use that name?
Yeah.
That name was really great. And he said, sure, you have my blessings, go do your thing. And so they started this group. And it spread like crazy. It was just like he threw a bunch of spores down and people just started, clamoring, can we start a chapter? And he's first like, chapter? I didn't plan on this, but okay, let's go with it. So suddenly there was up in the Twin Cities, they started a chapter. Houston started a chapter. It was just spreading like crazy. Now, I'd known him since the 80s. Now, I saw this article in Newsweek about him and this other article from Vin Superno. It's a Pennsylvania writer about the group. I contacted him and said, hey, congratulations on this great thing that you're starting here. And he said, I could use some help. Do you want to start a chapter in Philadelphia? So I did. And from there, it just kind of grew organically, spread everywhere. And he didn't like doing interviews. He really wasn't an interview kind of person, so he asked me to do it for him. But what it evolved into was the concept that people attack us because they think they can get away with it. There's been this long-standing stereotype that gay people are weaker, or that they're sissies, that they won't fight back. You got the whole limp-wristed caricature thing that just pervasive, attitude that we can't fight back. Well, we sought to change that perception. We've decided that it's our right. We have this human right to defend ourselves from harm. And people have been offering us harm. We are the second most prevalent group for bias-related offenses in the country, second only to race.
Gotcha.
And we decided enough's enough. So we started teaching those of us who are willing to do it, to carry a firearm, to get the proper permits if necessary, to get as much training as possible. And part of that was to make it so that we felt more comfortable being out and practicing. So we created the chapters that would go to ranges together and shoot as a group because we felt there was safety in numbers.
Yeah.
And we had thoroughly expected, because it's another stereotype, that these right-wing gun nuts that hate queers were going to start giving us problems at the range. And we were incredibly surprised when it didn't happen.
Yeah.
When we were welcomed with open arms. Oh, you're shooters? As long as you're good shooters, we don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And, stand for the Second Amendment, you're good people, you're with us. And it was enlightening.
Yeah.
Especially it was enlightening when our own community, the LGBTQ, etc. community, turned on us like we were vampires. We'd hold up a gun and they would just like a vampire and facing a crucifix.
Why do you think that is, though?
I think part of it is that they've been told that they have to. They've been told that in order to be true members of the community, read all, no true Scotsman, must behave this way towards guns because guns are a right-wing thing and being queer is a left-wing thing. So in order to be true to the left-wing reservation, we've got to be against guns and think guns are evil and just do everything we can to fight back against that idea, even though it's against our best interests.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I'm still trying to figure out how the correlation between someone's sexual orientation and the desire to have a firearm to protect themselves go hand in hand in some respect. It's
all it is. People ask me this all the time. So, what does being gay have to do with guns? I say, not a darn thing. Not a darn thing. It's just that we're human beings, and people try to hurt us. So we want to prevent that from happening. Yeah. So we engage in our lawful and constitutional right to defend ourselves from harm, our inborn right to protect ourselves from harm, and we use the best tools that are available to us. If that's a firearm, that's what we use.
Yeah.
If all that's available to us because of local laws is pepper spray, we do our best to be as well prepared and as well trained to use that pepper spray to the best advantage we can to stay safe. And that's it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I want to ask the question, and maybe there may be none, but is there any offense taken to the notion that the whole idea that your sexual orientation is a precursor to determining whether or not you are into something like firearms? Like, do you ever hit a point where you're like, okay, that's a bit insulting, this idea that just because I'm into guns that I can't necessarily be part of the community? I know it's probably hurtful, but is there some level of insult involved in that as well?
Well, I think that there may be some insult that's presented, but I'm one of these weird people that thinks that an insult is like a drink. It only hurts you if you accept it.
Yeah.
So I refuse to accept that drink. I don't want to be offended by it. There's no point in being offended.
Gotcha. No, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And so how has the culture changed, if any at all, after the Orlando nightclub shootings?
That was a really painful time. I've said it before, I'll say it again. That was our community's 9/11.
Gotcha.
It's the worst thing that's ever happened to our community. And the morning after it happened, my partner woke me up. She had a cup of coffee waiting for me. And it's like, uh-oh. Because she brings me a cup of coffee once in a while just because it's sweet and wonderful, and I love that she does it. But sometimes it's because you're going to need this. You're going to need this right away. And I took the cup of coffee and said, okay, what happened? And she told me, well, it's all over the news. I'm just going to let you look at it. So I didn't even finish the cup of coffee before I had read the first stories on it and had started writing the press release. Wow. And the press release is up on our site. And in it, I said that I begged people, don't go for that low-hanging fruit. You know, the low-hanging fruit that, oh my God, it's the guns. We've got to get rid of the guns. The gun did it. So the gun didn't do it. This guy did it. This guy that, for whatever reason, disliked gay and lesbian people so much that he wanted to go into a nightclub full of them and start shooting people. He could have gone in there with a hatchet. He could have gone in there with a knife. He could have gone in there with a sledgehammer. He could have driven his car into it. He could have walked in with a vest full of dynamite and blown himself up. Doesn't matter what tool he used. The problem was that in here, he felt that was necessary for some part of himself. And that's the thing that scared me. And it scared a lot of other people too. Because before this, it was just, oh, someone's going to follow you out of the bar and, beat you up or something. Now they're going to come into the bar and shoot you. That's another level of concern. Yeah. So I was very concerned for our people, and they responded. We had such an incredible increase in interest. I like to call it Dragon Ball Z levels of interest, because we went from 1,500 people on their Facebook page to over 9,000.
Wow! So
there's the Dragon Ball Z moment. It's over 9,000. But we had all this response. We had reporters, and my phone was ringing constantly. I've got a hotline specifically for the press, and it was in the press release, so of course they were using it, which is what it was there for. But I also was getting a lot of contacts from people in the shooting community, offering services, offering training, offering places to go, places to come, classes to take, offering discounts, some saying, come in and I'll teach you for free.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I had so many people offering this, I needed help. And thankfully, I had Erin Paulette. She's a member of my of the Pink Pistols, and she offered to help. And that spawned Operation Blazing Sword, which is the group that's tracking all these wonderful offers from all these people that want to help. And that really made me feel better, because it wasn't just this now scarier world. Now we had people that had our backs.
Yeah.
And we had people going to ranges all over the country that wanted to defend themselves and had changed their minds about using a defensive tool. And that was a real sea change for us, because suddenly we didn't have, 5 or 6 people coming to shoot. We had a dozen. We had 2 dozen. We had the Atlanta chapter that now has over 250 people on their mailing list and has a dozen people regularly show up to shoot. And people going and getting trained, people wanting to open new chapters. It's just, It's been phenomenal. And the response from the shooting community has been magnificent. The response from the NRA has been wonderful, because they've said, look, we know that we had some differences in the past. Yeah. We had some board members that said some unfortunate things, but we want to say, this is not the case anymore. We are, you're shooters. We want to support you because you're shooters, because you understand what the responsibilities are here. And we want to stand behind you just as we stand behind everyone else.
Yeah.
And this really resonated with me, because what I've always said is that, okay, we're different. We've got this one little difference. And that little difference happens to be who we're going to love in our life. Mm-hmm. But that's not something that everyone needs to know all the time. We've got all these other things about us that are the same.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, let's build bridges across lines of sameness, rather than trying to build walls on the places where we're different.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. And I love that, you now have a platform and you have a voice for people who didn't really have one before, especially with respect to the Second Amendment in that regard. And it really bothers me a lot. Not with just people who have a certain sexual orientation, but even down when it comes to race, even when it comes down to dealing with gender. This conversation about firearms in this country has been so divisive and has been categorized, and people have been forced into certain boxes for so long. You have groups of people out there literally doing things against their self-interest based on comparatively speaking, with respect to the humanity, superficial reasons. It's like, okay, I am a woman, but I'm also a human. Yes, I'm black, but I'm also a human. Yes, I'm gay, but I am also a human, whatever the case may be. And therefore, inherently, the one thing that remains constant is that desire to protect that humanity.
Absolutely.
And I'm just glad now that the word is getting out there, because for the longest, what they've done is they've definitely created, a divide between, what was be stereotypically understood as gun owners, and then people who live maybe a different lifestyle, stereotypically speaking. And when there was really no issue to begin with, like you said, when you were able to go to the range, you probably had preconceived notions the same way I did. I remember when I went to my first shooting competition, I had my preconceived notions. I'm like, I'm going to the middle of nowhere. I'm a young black guy. I don't know what's going to happen. And by and large, I didn't care very much, but I was willing to take that chance, and I was really surprised, and I also kind of felt ashamed a little bit. Because, I'm the one going out there thinking I was going to deal with people who had preconceived notions about me, when the only person who had preconceived notions, at least from my personal experience, was me.
Yep. Absolutely.
And
that's why it was so opening, and it just blew my mind how accepting people were. It's like, oh, you want to come in and shoot? Okay. Yeah. I need your driver's license and fill out this waiver, and here, here's your tag for your lane. You need any eye protection, ear protection, and it's like, okay, great. And went in, did some shooting, came out and said, how'd you do? And I said, I did pretty good. I said, good. You going to come back next time? I said, sure.
Yeah.
That was it. There was no, who do you sleep with? It was like, look, we got one of them. It's like, no, that didn't happen. And I like you, I felt a little bit ashamed that I'd gone in there expecting this a little bit. It was like, oh, what are they going to do? What are they going to say? And they treated me just like a human being because that's what we are.
Absolutely.
We're just human beings, just like everyone else. And we all have this necessity to protect ourselves, and we all have the choice to take on the responsibility for our own personal safety.
Absolutely.
And this is my big thing, is that it's all about taking personal responsibility for one's own life and one's own safety. Don't pass that off to someone else to do. I love the police, but they're too heavy. I can't carry one with me all the time.
Absolutely.
I must take a little bit of this responsibility for myself.
Yep. And
responsibility means agency. And when people take away the agency, when they say, oh, no, it's the guns, we got to ban the guns.
Yeah.
It says, you're taking away my agency in that. You're taking away the responsibility of the people that are doing the wrong things.
Absolutely.
It's projection, and we need to stop this projecting and understand that people can do bad things, and they need to own up to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you very much, Gwen, for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
It was equal here. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. If you're ever out in the area, look me up. We go shooting.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. And thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for everything that the Pink Pistols is doing. And really quickly before we go, can you just let people know who want to find out more information, where they can find chapters?
You can go to pinkpistols.org. That's pinkpistols, plural.org. And all the information is there, how to find a local chapter. And there's even, like I said, there's a hotline number in there if you absolutely need to talk to me about something. I've had calls at 3 a.m. from people that were at a crisis where it's like, oh my God, I feel so horrible. Yeah. I feel like a terrible person. What do I do? And it's like, look, everything's okay. And I don't mind the calls. If they're important, I don't mind the calls.
Gotcha.
But I just don't want a lot of spam.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you very much, Gwen, and you definitely take care and have a great one.
It was a pleasure, sir.
Absolutely.
You have a good night.
Will do. After this break, we're going to talk about some possible changes in government rules for gun sales.